In 1861, in a small village in America, 4 sisters had been collecting of their home. The oldest one is Meg, the second is Jo, the 0.331 is Amy, and the youngest one is Beth. That night, Meg and Jo had deliberate to go to a dance celebration at Maggie's friend's house. When Jo became doing Meg's hair, she by accident burned Meg's hair. Thankfully her carelessness didn't purpose a good deal trouble. It became Jo's first celebration, so Maggie defined the do's and don'ts on the celebration. She ought to in no way communicate too fast, flirt, or praise the lads too a good deal, and lots of different rules. During the celebration, Jo didn't do something except watching her sister dance together along with her friends. Differently from Meg's sleek nature, Jo's character became the precise opposite. She is tomboyish, careless, and introverted. Bored with the celebration, Jo then searched for a quiet region to take a break. She then met a boy named Laurie. It turns out that Laurie is the son of a wealthy aunt circle of relatives who lived in the front of Jo's house. The of them then communicate at period approximately every different. Jo informed him that her father became at war, even as Laurie informed her that each of his mother and father have died and he lived together along with his grandfather. In the middle in their chat, Laurie invited Jo to dance. However, due to the fact she became shy, the two of them danced in a quiet region, far from the crowd. While dancing, Meg referred to as from the window. Meg stated that she sprained her leg and couldn't walk home. Out of pity, Laurie then took them each home. When they were given home, even as taking care of Meg's sprained leg, Jo's mother, who's called as Mommy, greeted Laurie kindly. Laurie smiled as he noticed the relaxation of Jo's own circle of relatives. All his life, he in no way felt such warm temperature of own circle of relatives as Jo's own circle of relatives confirmed to him. Day succeeded and the Christmas arrived. That morning, Jo and her sisters gathered even as telling every different their dreams. Meg stated that one day, she desired to be an actress. Jo stated that she desired to be a writer, and Amy desired to be a well-known singer. Meanwhile, Beth's dream changed into now no longer as bold as her sister's. She handiest desired for you to play piano to entertain her sisters and mum each day. Hearing that made her sisters pass and hugged her. An hour later, their mum confirmed up. She stated that earlier than she went domestic, she went to the house and their neighbors, the humble own circle of relatives, whose husband changed into additionally combating the war. She noticed that the humble own circle of relatives had now no longer eaten because yesterday, even to heat themselves, the youngsters had to sleep in a single bed, hugging every other. If possible, Mommy would really like to give a few blankets and all of the meals at their domestic to the humble own circle of relatives. Out of pity, the 4 sisters agreed. Across the road, Laurie noticed the 4 sisters from his window with baskets of meals of their hands. He knew that Jo and her sisters desired to proportion their meals with others who wanted more. When they got here domestic some distance away, they had been amazed to locate plenty of meals on their table. Their own circle of relatives made informed them that earlier than their lower back domestic, Laurie and her grandfather got here and gave them all of the meals. Amid the joy, Mommy took out a letter dispatched from their father. The 4 sisters must listen to Mommy. Even though their father changed into now no longer there, this Christmas felt like the happiest Christmas for his or her own circle of relatives. The subsequent day, Jo went to look her aunt. She visited her aunt as soon as every week to analyze the manners of noblewoman. Her aunt changed into a wealthy and stingy spinster. However, despite the fact that she is stingy, she cared lots approximately her nephews. That changed into why she desired to train Jo to act like a noblewoman so she should get a wealthy husband one day. Despite all that, Jo didn't appear to need to get married. She simply desired to stay like her aunt, become an unbiased lady who won all she desired all through herself. Meanwhile, her aunt desired to inherit all her wealth for Jo while he exceeded away. One night, Jo and Meg had been invited to observe a play with Laurie and Laurie's personal coach named John. While they had been getting ready, Amy requested to include her. She clearly desired to satisfy Laurie, due to the fact she had fallen in love with him for the reason that first time she noticed him while he took her sisters home. Sadly, they didn't have sufficient tickets so Amy needed to stay. In the theater, John saved watching Meg. 4 of them appeared satisfied taking part in their nighttime together. However, once they were given home, Jo found out that her handwritten novel had gone. Jo turned into positive that Amy turned into the only who concealed her novel. Jo argued with Amy and suddenly, Amy stated that she had burnt the novel due to the fact she turned into jealous of her. That words from Amy made Jo indignant and beat her sister. Luckily, Mommy got here to split the 2 of them. After the state of affairs calmed down, Mommy advised Amy to express regret. However, Jo didn't need to forgive her yet. The subsequent day, at some stage in breakfast, Jo turned into nevertheless aggravated at Amy and saved far from Amy. Not lengthy after, Laurie got here to ask Jo for a walk. Amy, who felt responsible, then requested Meg the way to get Jo to forgive her. Meg advised Amy to go after Jo, However, don't say something till Joe smiled. Amy right away went to chase after Joe, however with inside the center of the road. Whilst crossing the frozen lake, the ice broke and Meg plunged into freezing water. Seeing her sister in danger, Joe and Laurie rushed to help her. Thankfully, they controlled to help her and taken her again home. That nighttime on the house, Joe confided to her mum approximately his anger issue. Her mum advised her that in spite of her patience, she as soon as had an anger issue, much like Joe. Her mum stated that if she tried, she turned into positive that Joe might be capable of manage herself too. Months exceeded and now, Joe and Amy had made up. In the afternoon, Laurie took Joe and her family on excursion to the seaside with John and Laurie's buddy Fred. Meg and John's dating seemed to be getting closer, likewise with Joe and Laurie. Joe even had a unique name for Laurie. Amy turned into not jealous of Joe anymore, however she nevertheless liked to color Laurie from the space secretly. The subsequent day, while Mommy turned into at work, she was given the information that her husband, who has simply again from the battlefield, turned into being handled with inside the hospital. In a panic, the four sisters, Laurie, and his grandfather helped Mommy to get geared up to visit the hospital. Before leaving, Joe gave pretty quite a few cash to her mum. Mommy requested in which she were given that much cash. Joe then responded that she had bought her hair to the salon whilst commencing her hat. Seeing her daughter's sacrifice, Mommy turned into very moved. 3 days surpassed, however Mommy had now no longer again from the medical institution. That morning, Beth requested her sisters to accompany her to look the Hummel family. Since their mum left for the medical institution 3 days ago, the Hummel own circle of relatives should be ravenous due to the fact nobody gave them food. However, as opposed to listening to her, her sisters have been too targeted on their stuff. Beth determined to go away for the Hummel own circle of relatives' residence alone. Before she went there, she went to Laurie's residence first. She gave a couple of footwear to Laurie's grandfather as a thank you for assisting their own circle of relatives from time to time. After returning domestic from the Hummel own circle of relatives as domestic, her siblings confirmed her a piano. Turned out, Laurie's grandfather gave it to her as thank you for her gift to him. He additionally dispatched a letter with it, pronouncing that the piano become not anything in comparison to Beth's gift. Beth became so moved she then rushed to move then hugged the antique man. Laurie's grandfather stated that Beth reminded him of his overdue daughter whilst she became only a child. A minute chat, Laurie's grandfather found out that Beth become having a fever. At night time, Beth become tested with the aid of using the physician. The end result confirmed that Beth become affected by flu, and in the event that they have been too overdue to deal with her sickness, Beth's existence will be threatened. The physician additionally defined that this disorder is without difficulty transmitted to folks who had by no means had the flu, so for a while, Beth should be quarantined. Meanwhile, Amy, who had by no means had the flu, should live together along with her aunt for a while. 2 days later, Amy became nevertheless staying at her aunt's residence. When she became painting, her aunt checked out her and discovered her gracious nature. Her aunt then requested her if she desired to update Joe to return back to her location each week. Her aunt idea that in comparison to Joe, whose nature become tomboyish, Amy become greater elegant and is best to be a noble woman and come to be her successor. If Amy agreed to be a terrific girl, her aunt will assure her future. Hearing that, Amy, who become nevertheless innocent, smiled and thankfully agreed. On the alternative hand, Beth's situation appeared to be getting worse. Her sisters didn't realize how to deal with her flu. They then determined to name their mum to head domestic to attend to their sister. Hours later, Mommy came. With her tenderness, she controlled to take control. It became overdue that night time, however Mommy became nevertheless looking after Beth. The subsequent morning, whilst Joe woke up, she panicked due to the fact she couldn't discover Beth in her bed. She ran downstairs calling for her mum, however it turned out, Beth became there together along with her. She became healed from her flu. Joe thankfully hugged her loved sister. Months later, Christmas arrived as soon as again. However extraordinary from Ultimate Year's Christmas, this year, Laurie confirmed up with a surprise. He introduced Joe's father domestic from the hospital. Months surpassed and these days changed into Meg and John's wedding day. However, as opposed to being satisfied just like the others, Joe changed into clearly sad. She then requested Meg to run away together along with her in order that Meg ought to chase her dream as a substitute of having married. Hearing that, Meg smiled and stated that she felt to must do that. Meg stated that it changed into her choice to marry and deserted her dream. Meg stated that being an impartial female doesn't imply one's need to now no longer fall in love. She had made up her thoughts and Joe had to appreciate her decision, despite the fact that deep down, she couldn't be given how her sister deserted her dream to get married. After the party, Laurie invited Joe to chat together along with her, simply the two of them. At that moment, Laurie dared himself to propose to Joe, However, as opposed to being satisfied, Jo changed into angry. She stated that she in no way desired to fall in love from the very start. She simply desired to be an impartial female who changed into a success in making her goals come true. For Jo, Laurie changed into only a brother to her. Laurie's coronary heart changed into broken. Before leaving, Laurie stated that regardless of how tough she attempted to keep away from love, one day, Jo could sooner or later fall in love. It isn't human beings who reached for love, however the love itself selected wherein to stay. With his coronary heart broken, Laurie left from there. 7 years later, Jo had grown up and moved to New York City. She in no way met Laurie on account that she grew to become down his proposal. Jo changed into looking to provide her script to a large publishing organization in New York. However, because females' emancipation changed into now no longer issued at that time, it changed into tough for ladies to get jobs. Jo changed into compelled to admit to the editor that the paintings that he introduced changed into now no longer hers, however instead her male friends. When it changed into read, the editor changed into interested. He changed into inclined to post the paintings, so long as he changed into allowed to extrude the finishing of her writing to a satisfied finishing, for the reason that editor felt that the finishing of the writing changed into too tragic and could really now no longer promote nicely with inside the market. Like it or now no longer, for the sake of money, Jo allowed her writing to be changed. After returning to her boarding house, Jo without delay wrote a brand new tale subsequent to the fireplace. However, due to the fact he changed into too focused, she didn't realize that her get dressed changed into on fire. Fortunately, warned her approximately her get dressed. That man is Friedrich, a younger lecturer at a campus in New York City who additionally lived there. Shortly after, their landlord got here and advised Jo that her students have been looking forward to her upstairs. Besides working as a writer, Jo additionally labored as a non-public tutor. Before leaving, Friedrich requested why did she hassle to paintings that tough whilst maximum of the ladies her age desired to marry instead. Casually, Jo spoke back that she changed into now no longer at all interested by getting married. After all, that is only a aspect job. Jo's predominant purpose changed into to preserve pleasurable her dream of turning into a famous e-book writer. Friedrich changed into surprised with the aid of using her answer. That night time on the theater, Jo noticed Friedrich, who simply completed looking one of the shows. Jo changed into keen to talk with him once more, so she accompanied him to a bar. There, a person requested her to bounce with the opposite site visitors together with Friedrich. Jo changed into so happy. She reminisced the memory wherein she danced with Laurie years ago. The subsequent evening, Friedrich secretly dispatched to e-book and a letter to Jo. Friedrich wrote in his letter that he changed into curious approximately Jo's writings and would really like to peer them after she completed them. That letter made Jo happy. She made up her thoughts to complete her paintings that very night time. After staying up all night time writing, Jo finally completed her paintings. She without delay went to visit Friedrich and confirmed him her paintings. She changed into sure that Friedrich would like her writing. However, that changed into now no longer what happened. Friedrich criticized her writing all out and made Jo irritated. She then burst into anger and advised Friedrich that he didn't apprehend what she read. Moreover, he by no means wrote something before. Jo without delay left from there. On the opposite hand, within inside the town of Paris, France, Amy changed into visible taking a walk with her aunt on their horse-drawn carriage. She had grown as much as be a stunning girl and become relationship Laurie's pal, Fred. Amy advised her aunt that she acquired a letter from her mom in the morning, announcing that Beth become badly sick. However, instead of sympathizing and telling her to go back domestic to look her sister's condition, her aunt advised her now no longer to fear an excessive amount of due to the fact her sisters have been there to attend to Beth. In the center of the road, Amy noticed Laurie, who befell to by skip via way of means of she known as his call, and at once run to hug him. She hadn't seen him for years due to the fact she lived together along with her aunt. Before she left, Amy advised Laurie her deal with and invited him to return back to go to if he had the time. A few days later, Jo additionally acquired a letter from Mommy approximately Beth's condition. Her response became distinct from Amy's. Without questioning much, she had once again domestic to test on her sister. When she noticed that the complete own circle of relatives had gathered besides Amy, she became annoyed. She grumbled all day. Her mom advised her that Amy may have something to do. Her mom additionally referred to that Amy had simply met Laurie and advised her that they could come back domestic finally whilst her commercial enterprise is finished. After starting up her jacket, Jo rushed to test on Beth's condition. On one side, Jo became concerned approximately his sister's condition. However, she additionally concept approximately Mommy's phrases earlier. She became jealous due to the fact Amy became the one that Laurie met after years, now no longer her. Jo additionally desired to satisfy him once more and fasten her beyond mistakes. That night, whilst John checked his savings, he became burdened as to why he ran out of cash in his savings. Meg then confessed that she had made a mistake via way of means of shopping for new garments for herself and the children. Meg attempted to apologize. John didn't say anything. However, that made Meg experience greater guilty. She stated that she became jealous whilst he noticed his pal searching for new garments, so she bought a few too. Hearing that made John disappointed. Meanwhile, in France, Laurie got here to go to Amy even as she became handling her paintings. Laurie asked whilst could she make and show off for her paintings. Amy spoke back she has stopped portrait due to the fact she found out that her portrait become now no longer desirable to see. She's simply expecting Fred to advise to her, then the two of them gets married. During the chat, Laurie changed into mesmerized via way of means of Amy. She regarded prettier than again after they had been younger. In the center of the chat, from the window, Amy noticed Fred coming. Before welcoming Fred, Amy requested Laurie how she regarded. While smiling, Laurie stated that she changed into stunning. Days passed. When the two of them met once more, Laurie requested Amy to color him. After completing the portrait, Laurie by accident noticed a vintage portrait of him. Amy stated that he painted it again after they had been on excursion at the seaside 7 years ago. Laurie found out that Amy had emotions for him for years, however he by no means found out that. At that very moment, Laurie without delay dared to advocate to Amy and informed her to go away Fred if she nonetheless cherished him. Hearing that made Amy cry. She knew that she changed into only at launch after Joe rejected him. Amy without delay left him alone. The subsequent day, Amy's aunt informed her that Laurie had simply come to mention goodbye. Laurie had planned to transport to London and might now no longer come again once more. Amy didn't say anything. Deep down, Amy nonetheless had feeling for Laurie. However, she didn't have the coronary heart to harm Fred's coronary heart. Amy had a dilemma, till finally, inside the afternoon, while Fred proposed to her, Amy refused his proposal. Hearing Amy had rejected a person as wealthy as Fred, her aunt changed into shocked. On the alternative hand, Joe took Beth to the seaside. Joe informed Beth that she might forestall writing and changed into going to cognizance on looking after her. Hearing that, Beth disagreed. Beth stated that she desired her sister to keep writing if she desired her to be satisfied. After that, Joe changed into decided to write the nice novel tale he had ever written. The subsequent day, while Joe changed into looking after Beth, she noticed Meg and John in the front in their house. At first, Meg noticed John changed into going to scold her once more approximately the brand new garments she sold yesterday. However, it grew to become out that John changed into sorry and promised that he might attempt to locate extra cash in order that Meg may want to purchase the fine things. She changed into so moved. She then stated that John did not want to search for a new job. As a wife, she must be greatly grateful to simply accept something his husband's situation changed into. From inside, Joe changed into touched to hear what befell among Meg and John. She changed into satisfied for them. However, suddenly, Beth had seizures. Her sickness changed into an awful lot worse than what befell 7 years ago. That night, Joe slept subsequent to Beth while crying and saved protecting Beth's hand. Joe saved telling her to stay alive and combat for her health. The subsequent morning, Joe changed into surprised whilst she couldn't locate Beth in her bed. She right away ran downstairs to the kitchen to search for her. There, she simplest discovered her mother, crying approximately something. Turned out, Beth had died. After Beth's funeral, Joe packed up her things. Shortly after, Mommy got here and the two of them then had a protracted chat discussing Joe's dream to end up a well-known writer. However, Joe did not appear involved at all. She stated that she have been on my own for too long and that she would possibly want a person to lean on. She stated that if Laurie got here and proposed to her, she can be able to be given his idea proper or way. The simplest element she wished changed into to sense loved. She didn't even care if she may want to love the person or now no longer. Mommy instructed her that she nonetheless had plenty in life, and it will simply be plenty happier if she may want to also love the person. Joe couldn't say whatever to respond. Meanwhile, Amy changed into approximately to move domestic whilst suddenly, Laurie confirmed up. While crying, Amy stated that she changed into sorry for now no longer coming in advance to peer Beth. She then invited Laurie to return back domestic together, however Laurie refused. He had promised himself to live far from Amy. Amy instructed him that she refused Fred's idea the day before. Hearing that made Laurie so happy. He kissed her proper away and proposed to her. In the evening, whilst Joe changed into sleeping, Laurie woke her up. He and Amy had simply arrived. Joe smiled and hugged him. However, her smile right away disappeared whilst Laurie instructed her that he and Amy had simply married. Laurie instructed a protracted story approximately his assembly with Amy and the way they both determined to get married at the manor domestic. Joe changed into shocked. He went out to calm his thoughts. Outside, he noticed Laurie's grandfather. When Joe requested what he changed into doing, he defined that he didn't have the coronary heart to move inside. Since the first time he met Beth, He had taken into consideration his granddaughter. When he discovered out that Beth had handed away, he changed into heartbroken. Hearing that, Joe held his hand and stated that despite the fact that she changed into now no longer Beth, she didn't thoughts being his buddy too. After he calmed down, the two of them went inside. At night, Joe could not sleep. She saved remembering Beth's final wish. Even though her writing could not treatment her, Joe changed into keen to provide her sister's final wish. That very night, Joe began out writing her excellent novel. For days, Joe endured to write down without taking a rest, till finally, Joe's novel changed into finished. When it changed into time to ship it to the publisher, Joe hopefully wrote her call in there. She became sure, despite the fact that she become best a woman, she might be as remarkable or even more than men. The subsequent day, at the same time as having breakfast, Joe's parents informed her that a person become ready to fulfill her. Turned out it become Friedrich. She become glad a good way to see him again. They spent the relaxation of the day collectively with the own circle of relatives. When Friedrich become approximately to head home, he stated that he become sorry and stated his cause to criticize Joe's writing at that point become best due to the fact he desired to encourage Joe to be able to jot down even better. Joe simply smiled as she stated that she didn't care approximately the trouble anymore. She become simply so glad to peer Friedrich again. When Friedrich left, everybody requested why Joe failed to specific her feelings. They knew from the appearance in her eyes, Joe ought to have favored him. Meg and Amy saved forcing her to chase him. They even took her to the station. At the station, while Joe met Friedrich, she had once stated that she cherished Friedrich. Thankfully, Friedrich shared the equal feeling with her. They then shared a totally romantic kiss. Years later, their aunt passed away, but surprisingly, their aunt honestly left all her wealth to Joe. Amy failed to appearance jealous at all. She become honestly glad due to the fact after all, Joe become nonetheless her sister. Joe then turned her aunt's large residence right into a school. All the aunt circle of relatives helped cope with the school, inclusive of Friedrich. Not best that, however, the novel written with the aid of using Joe become additionally with inside the system of printing. The novel she wrote for his overdue sister, Beth, the novel that informed the tale of her own circle of relatives' life.